Welcome to South-South News. This afternoon, our guest, Ambassador Shigeki SUMI of Japan to the United Nations. And we're here to discuss Millennium Development Goals, Rio+20, South-South, and Triangle Cooperation. Good afternoon, Ambassador, and welcome to South-South News.
Thank you.
Last year, there was a meeting on the Millennium Development Goals. There was a summit in June of 2010. What were some of the outcomes from that meeting in relationship to the Millennium Development Goals?
Because the Millennium Development Goal concerned, we have to achieve it by the year 2015. That means we have only 5 years left. So everybody got together last year in September here in New York and discuss where we have a bottleneck. In order to achieve the MDG, Millennium Development Goal, by 2015. So that is a really outcome. So we really focused the identification of bottlenecks in order to achieve that goal.
What are some of those bottlenecks? What are some of the specific targets that arose from that meeting in relationship to the Millennium Development Goals?
Yes, because there are many targets in the MDGs, but now many do understand the area of health related and the area of the education are sort of lagging behind the schedule. So many really are struggling in those 2 areas in order to achieve the goal by the year 2015.
What are some of the goals that Japan is looking to achieve and has been focusing on strategically?
Yes, exactly. So as I said at the beginning, the area of health and the area of education. Japan really believes that we could set a very good example in order to help or promote the implementation of the MDG by the year 2015.
Are there some initiatives that Japan may have already in place that could actually serve as models for other developing countries?
Yes, that's why this year, early June, in Tokyo, together with the World Bank and the UNDP and the UNICEF and the JICA. JICA is Japan the Corporation for the Technological Development, got together and inviting developing countries, more than 40, and ministerial level, and we really discussed how to achieve the MDG by 2015 in the area of health and education.
Now, talking about best practices, and you very well just mentioned that there needs to be some sort of a roadmap for these countries so that they can work towards achieving the MDGs in the next couple of years. Precisely on roadmaps, these have been the discussions held at the United Nations when we talk about climate change and Rio+20, that there is a need for the countries to have some sort of a roadmap. What is the strategy and how will Japan contribute to the Rio+20 looking ahead into next year?
Okay, because Rio+20, now everybody agrees that issues should be the green economy, how to achieve the green economy. B, how to have a better institution to achieve that. But coming back the green economy, nobody disagrees that the importance of green economy. But the issue is how to achieve it. In other words, some developing countries have concerns because it might lead to the impositions of conditionality. For example, developing countries might be told by developing countries, unless you do produce those goods by utilizing green economy, we will not buy your goods, something like that. So first, we have to eradicate that concern because green economy is the economy which should be achieved with low carbon production. I think nobody disagrees. But again, the issue is how to achieve that by eradicating the fear among the developing countries, which I mentioned now.
Now, in terms of that, how can the private sector be involved when we talk about Rio+20?
Yes, that's very important because we have to encourage private sector changing or shifting from high carbon economy to low carbon economies. So we have to encourage private sectors to set that course by, for example, assuring a sort of market acceptability for private sector so they feel safe to produce goods by utilization of green economy. Because so far, surely it's more costly than using a carbon,
Sure.
the way of production.
When we talk about South-South and triangle cooperation in terms of improving developing countries, we know that Japan has been very strategic and certainly a big contributor to South-South and triangle cooperation, particularly in developing countries in Africa. What are some of those best practices and what are some of the success stories that you can share with us?
Okay, thank you very much. Because Japan has been a really leading country to promote the South-South cooperation in the context of triangular cooperation. Because I must say Japan is a very few who has a very clear strategies. Because it's based upon the experience of Japan. Because now people say Japan is a very rich country, but 50, 60 years ago, Japan is still the developing countries, is categorized one of the developing countries. But nevertheless, Japan started the ODA aid to other developing countries. So that means Japan is a really sort of initiator of South-South cooperation. So that's why Japan has clear belief in South-South cooperation. But now you ask the concrete case or concrete success story. Okay, I'll give you one. Because now Japan has a South-South cooperation partnership with 13 countries throughout the world. And many are with African countries. The one example that Japan developed a new technology is a cropping technology with Brazil, in Brazil. And then both Japan and Brazil found that the Mozambique has a sort of similar type of cropping system. So now Japan and Brazil are working together to transmit the technologies of cropping developed in Brazil to Mozambique. We just started, but there are high expectations.
What has been the response so far?
Yes. That we have a yes. I think so far it is going very well. So that is one of the examples. But of course there are plenty of examples. For example, with Malaysia, because Malaysia is a sort of multi-ethnical society. So Japan, together with Malaysia, went to Iraq, because what the Iraq really need to stabilize the society. So with Japanese assistance, the Malaysia sent a sort of instructor to tell them, good lessons learned in Malaysia in order to have a stability of society, regardless the multi-ethnicity of that country. So these are really the cooperation we are doing.
You have an event that's coming up, a meeting that's coming up in August. Can you talk to us about that meeting and what the context of the meeting will be?
By following up what we had in Kenya 2 years ago, where we adopted the Nairobi Declaration on the issue of South-South cooperation, we could further develop what we have achieved in Nairobi 2 years ago.
Ambassador, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for joining us today at South-South News. It's been a pleasure. Thank you all for tuning in to South-South News. Until next time.